I never thought my marriage would end this way. I was the guy who believed in love, loyalty, and building a future with the woman I adored. But sometimes, love isn't enough. This is the story of how my wife's betrayal shattered our marriage and changed me forever. From the outside, Lisa and I had the perfect love story. We met in college, one of those classic, almost cliché romances. She was the girl everyone admired, with her bright smile, infectious laughter, and a presence that could light up any room. And me, I was just the lucky guy who managed to win her heart. Our love felt effortless. We spent long nights talking about our dreams, our future, the life we wanted to build together. She made me feel like I was the only man in the world. And for years, I believed she felt the same way. After graduation, we built our lives side by side. I got a stable job in finance, working long hours to ensure we had everything we needed. Lisa, always the creative one, pursued her passion for interior design. Life was good. We bought our first home, traveled to places we had always dreamed of, and spent weekends wrapped up in each other's company. Marriage felt easy, natural, like we were meant to be. Of course, we had our struggles like any couple, but we always found our way back to each other. At least, that's what I thought. Looking back now, I realize how blind I was. The small cracks had been forming for years, but love can make you ignore the signs. And by the time I noticed them, it was already too late. At first, the changes were subtle, so small that I almost didn't notice them. Almost. Lisa had always been affectionate, the kind of wife who would greet me with a kiss when I walked through the door. But suddenly, those kisses became quick, distracted. The warmth in her eyes that used to make me feel like the most important man in her world. It was fading. I tried to brush it off. Maybe she was just stressed. Work had been demanding, and she'd taken on new clients. I told myself it was just a phase. After all, every marriage goes through ups and downs, right? But then, there were the late nights. Lisa started going out more often, girls' nights, networking events, just grabbing dinner with a friend. At first, I encouraged it. I never wanted to be the kind of husband who controlled his wife's freedom. But something felt off. She'd leave the house dressed differently, tighter dresses, more makeup, perfume I hadn't smelled on her in years. And when she came home, she'd slip into the bathroom before kissing me, as if she needed to erase the scent of wherever she had been. Then came the phone. Lisa had always been open with her phone. We'd scroll through memes together, share funny texts from friends. But suddenly, her phone was always face down. She started taking calls in the other room, lowering her voice when I walked by. And whenever I asked who she was texting, she'd give short, dismissive answers. "Oh, just a friend. Work stuff. It's nothing, babe." It was always nothing. But nothing had never felt so heavy. One night, I casually reached for her phone while she was in the shower, just to check the time. Before I could even press the home button, she stormed out of the bathroom, wrapped in a towel, snatching the phone from my hand like I was some kind of criminal. "What the hell are you doing?" she snapped. "I was just checking the time." Her face relaxed for half a second, but her grip on the phone stayed tight. "You could have just asked." Then she turned away, quickly typing something before setting the phone down, face down, as always. I wanted to believe her. I really did. But in that moment, I felt something shift inside me. That was the first time I knew, really knew, that something was wrong. And the worst part? I wasn't ready to face the truth. Not yet. Denial is a strange thing. Even when all the signs were there, I still clung to hope. I told myself that Lisa would never betray me, that I was just being paranoid. But then came the night that shattered every illusion I had left. It was a Friday evening, and Lisa was getting ready to go out. She told me it was a last-minute work event, something about networking with clients. I watched as she slipped into a sleek black dress, one I hadn't seen her wear in years. She took extra time doing her makeup, her perfume filling the room with a scent that suddenly felt foreign. "You don't mind, do you?" she asked, giving me a quick peck on the cheek. I won't be out too late. I forced a smile. Of course not. Have fun. But my gut told me otherwise. After she left, I sat on the couch, staring at the door. Something inside me whispered that this wasn't just another night out. My mind raced with doubts and suspicions, memories of the past few months playing like a broken record. Then, almost without thinking, I grabbed my phone and opened the location tracker we had on our shared phone plan. Her dot wasn't moving toward the restaurant she had mentioned. It was heading toward a hotel. My hand started to shake. My breath came out in short, uneven gasps. No. This can't be happening. For a moment, I hesitated. Did I really want to know the truth? Did I want to see something that would break me completely? But deep down, I already knew. I grabbed my keys and drove. Every mile felt like an eternity. My heart pounded in my chest, my mind running through every possible scenario. Maybe there's an explanation. Maybe I'm overreacting. But when I pulled into the parking lot of the hotel, all my hopes crumbled. Because there she was. Lisa, walking out of the lobby with another man. A tall, well-dressed guy, his arm casually resting on her lower back. They were laughing, their faces close, the kind of closeness that once belonged to us. I felt like the air had been sucked out of my lungs. My vision blurred. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly I thought it might snap in half. I wanted to storm out of the car, confront them, demand answers. But instead, I just sat there. Frozen. Because at that moment, I realized something heartbreaking. I didn't need answers. I already knew them. Lisa wasn't just cheating on me. She had replaced me. And our marriage? It had been over long before that night. I don't remember driving home. I don't remember parking the car or walking inside. All I remember is the feeling, the crushing weight in my chest, the numbness creeping into my limbs, the sickening realization that the woman I loved had betrayed me. I sat in the dark, waiting. The clock ticked away the minutes, then the hours. My mind raced, flipping between anger and heartbreak, between wanting to scream and wanting to break down. Finally, just past midnight, the front door creaked open. Lisa walked in, heels in her hand, hair slightly messy, a tired but content look on her face. She didn't expect to see me sitting there, staring at her from the couch. She jumped slightly. "Oh. You scared me." Then, with forced casualness, she added, "Why are you up?" I didn't answer. I just held up my phone, showing her the location tracker. Her expression shifted in an instant. A flicker of panic crossed her face before she quickly masked it with indifference. "You were tracking me?" she scoffed, as if I was the one who had crossed a line. "Where were you, Lisa?" My voice was calm, too calm. She rolled her eyes, tossing her purse onto the table. "I told you. A work event. At a hotel." I clenched my jaw, forcing myself to stay composed. "I saw you, Lisa. I saw you with him." Silence. For the first time in our marriage, Lisa had no quick comeback, no clever excuse. Then, she sighed. Not in guilt, not in remorse, but in annoyance. "I don't know what you think you saw, but don't." My voice came out sharper than I intended. "Don't lie to me. Not anymore." Her eyes met mine, and for the briefest second, I saw something: regret. Shame. But then it was gone, replaced by something colder. "Fine," she said, crossing her arms. "You want the truth?" "Yes. I've been seeing someone else." My stomach dropped. Even though I knew, hearing her say it felt like a dagger to the heart. "How long?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Lisa hesitated, then shrugged. "A few months." "A few months." I let out a hollow laugh. "Wow. And all this time, you let me believe we were okay. She exhaled sharply. Look, I didn't plan for this to happen. It just did. You don't accidentally cheat, Lisa. She said nothing. And that's when it hit me, the worst part of all. She wasn't sorry. Not for the betrayal. Not for lying to me. She was only sorry that she got caught. Something inside me broke. Not in anger, not in sadness, but in clarity. I stood up, my legs feeling like lead. I'm done. Lisa's eyes widened slightly. Wait, let's talk about this. There's nothing to talk about. My voice was steady, final. You made your choice. Now I'm making mine. I turned toward the bedroom and started packing my things. Lisa followed me, her tone shifting. I still love you, she tried, her voice softer. It was just a mistake. I laughed bitterly. A months-long mistake. I zipped my suitcase and turned to face her. Lisa, if you loved me, you wouldn't have done this. Her lips parted as if she wanted to argue, but no words came out. She knew I was right. I grabbed my keys, gave our home one last glance, and walked out the door. And for the first time in a long time, I felt something unexpected. Relief. Because I finally understood that the woman I fell in love with was gone. And I wasn't going to waste another second chasing someone who had already let me go. Walking away from Lisa should have been the hardest thing I'd ever done. But in reality, it was the easiest. What hurt more than her betrayal was realizing just how little she cared. She didn't chase after me. She didn't call. She didn't even try to fix it. It was as if she had been waiting for me to leave. And maybe, deep down, I had been waiting too. I checked into a hotel that night, staring at the ceiling for hours, my mind replaying everything, our love, our vows, the slow decay of our marriage. Had she ever really loved me? Or had I just been a placeholder, a comfortable option until something better came along? I didn't sleep. The next morning, I called a lawyer. Filing for divorce felt surreal, like signing off on a life I no longer recognized. But there was no point in dragging it out. Lisa had already made her choice, and I was done being second place in my own marriage. I didn't expect much resistance from her. She had already checked out emotionally, so why fight? But when she was served the papers, something shifted. She showed up at my hotel, knocking on the door like nothing had happened. When I opened it, she stood there with puffy eyes, wearing one of my old sweatshirts, the kind of move that might have worked on me once. Can we talk? She asked softly. I almost laughed. Now she wanted to talk. Now, when it was too late. Still, I let her in. Not because I wanted to reconcile, but because I needed closure. She sat on the edge of the bed, fidgeting with the hem of her sleeve. I don't want a divorce. I leaned against the wall, arms crossed. Then you shouldn't have cheated. Her face twisted with guilt, or maybe just frustration that she had lost control over me. I was confused, she said. I never meant to hurt you. I shook my head. You weren't confused, Lisa. You were selfish. Tears welled in her eyes, but I didn't feel sympathy. Not anymore. Do you love him? I asked. She hesitated. Too long. And that was my answer. I don't know, she whispered. I sighed, rubbing my temples. Then why did you do it? Her lips parted, but she had no real answer. No justification. Because there wasn't one. Finally, she swallowed hard. Can we fix this? I looked at her, really looked at her. And for the first time, I didn't see the woman I fell in love with. I saw a stranger. No, I said simply. We can't. She started crying then, real tears this time. Maybe it was regret. Maybe it was just the fear of losing the stability I had provided. But it didn't matter anymore. I had broken the spell. I stood up, opened the door, and gestured for her to leave. "Goodbye, Lisa." She stared at me for a long moment, as if trying to find the right words to make me stay. But there were none. She walked out, and with that, our marriage was over. I expected to feel broken. Shattered. But as the door clicked shut, I felt something else entirely. Freedom. Because I finally understood, Lisa wasn't my home. She was just a chapter. And I was ready to turn the page. The first few weeks after Lisa walked out were a blur. Grief and relief battled inside me, but one thing was clear: I was free. Free from the lies, the constant doubt, the slow unraveling of a marriage I had tried so hard to hold together. But moving on wasn't easy. I had spent years building a life with Lisa, and now, I had to figure out who I was without her. The silence in my new apartment was deafening at first. The empty side of the bed was a reminder of what I had lost. But over time, I started seeing it differently. Not as emptiness, but as possibility. I focused on myself for the first time in years. Hit the gym, reconnected with old friends, picked up hobbies I had abandoned in the name of married life. I realized how much of myself I had sacrificed for a relationship that was never meant to last. One evening, while sitting in a cafe, I overheard a couple laughing, genuine, effortless laughter. The kind Lisa and I hadn't shared in years. And for the first time, I didn't feel bitterness. I didn't feel anger. I felt hope. Because I knew that someday, I would have that again. One day, I would meet someone who would love me the way I deserved. Someone who wouldn't betray my trust, someone who wouldn't make me question my worth. But until then, I was learning to be happy on my own. And that was enough. Because my cheating wife may have ruined our marriage. But she didn't ruin me. Life has a way of teaching us lessons in the hardest ways. I thought my marriage was unbreakable, that love alone was enough to keep us together. But sometimes, the person you trust the most is the one who hurts you the deepest. Lisa's betrayal shattered me, but in the end, it didn't define me. I walked away not as a broken man, but as someone who finally understood his worth. If there's one thing I've learned, it's this: never settle for someone who doesn't value you. Never ignore the signs that something is wrong. And most importantly, never be afraid to walk away from a love that no longer serves you. Because endings, they aren't always tragedies. Sometimes, they're just the beginning of something better. And I'm ready for that next chapter.